What's good? It's your boy 2K here. Shout out to the movement and everybody who's moving with us. For this one, I want to talk a little bit about how I've always felt that James Degale was never going to be an elite fighter within the sport of boxing. Now, don't get me wrong, I like James Degale, but I never looked at him and said, that guy right there is going to be an elite fighter in boxing. And it's basically based on what I've seen in the ring, right? Now, as we all know, James Degale lost his IBF title this past Saturday in dramatic fashion too. You know what I'm saying? To a journeyman by the name of Caleb Truax. Real talk. Now, Caleb Truax is the same guy that was the second comeback fight for Jermaine Taylor after he was knocked out by Carl Froch and Arthur Abraham, right? Jermaine Taylor bowed out of the Super 6 tournament after the Arthur Abraham knockout. Came back for his first tune-up fight against a guy by the name of Jesse Nicolo. Knocked him out. Then his second comeback fight was Caleb Truax. Now, he struggled a little bit in that fight, even got dropped, but he won convincingly. I mean, no questions asked, no controversy. Unanimous decision win. You know, he dominated the majority of the fight, right? Caleb Truax also fought Anthony Durrell and was completely fucking steamrolled, dog. Got knocked out in the first round. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there was no competition in that fight, right? And he also fought Daniel Jacobs. Now, again, in that fight, no controversy, no questions asked. Daniel Jacobs dominated the fight from the opening bell to the last bell, right? I don't even know if nigga even touched Daniel Jacobs, real talk. So, he's a journeyman. He's a guy that high-level fighters will fight, you know, just to get a fight in, to stay active, or to use him as an opponent to get them to fighting another high-level fighter in their division, right? He will be the fight in between that big fight. That's what a journeyman is used for. Now, motherfuckers out there like, no, he's not a journeyman, he's a gatekeeper. There's a difference between a journeyman and a gatekeeper. A gatekeeper is typically a guy who used to be a highly touted contender or a former champion who has taken consecutive losses in a given time period that has relegated him to being a gatekeeper, right? A good example of this in the welterweight division is Andre Berto. Andre Berto is a former champion. When he lost his belt, he was then a highly touted contender, right? A lot of people felt, you know, when he lost, he was still gonna be that dude. When he lost to Victor Ortiz, he could still come back and end up being a champion again within the division, right? But when he lost to cats like Jesus Soto Carras, right? When he lost to Robert Guerrero, who had moved up from 140, and this was only his second fight at welterweight. His first fight was against Selçuk Aydin. And only his second fight at welterweight, he beats a guy who's been campaigning at welterweight for a while, right? Beats him rather easily. At that point, people were like, all right, well, maybe he's not as good as we thought. Especially the Soto Carras fight. Motherfuckers are like, oh, nah, man, this nigga's whack. You know, he's a gatekeeper, right? But then he turned the tables. When he came back, he beat Victor Ortiz in a rematch. He beat Josecito Lopez. You know, he beat a motherfucker by the name of Steve Upshaw. Nobody knew. But at that time, people didn't know if he was really going to beat Upshaw because he had already lost to Soto Carras. You know what I'm saying? Who in himself, in his right, he's a journeyman as well. So people were like, well, give him a little bit of slack back. You know what I'm saying? He did beat Victor Ortiz. He has beaten these guys. He's on the comeback. But then what really put him at welterweight, when people really finally started to realize, some of the slow niggas out there, you know what I'm saying, started to finally realize that he can't beat any of the top guys at welterweight, is when he lost to Sean Porter, right? And that really pretty much stagnated him and put him in the position to be a gatekeeper at 147. That's why he's titled that. Caleb Truax was never a highly touted contender and definitely has never been a former champion. He's a champion now, though, right? so he can't be seen as a gatekeeper. He's a journeyman. All right. So, you know, given the shit that James Degale does in the ring, he's always been a front runner. And what I mean by that is James Degale is a 5 to 6 round fighter, right? He looks extremely good in the first half of fights, and then in the second half he looks like a completely different fighter, right? He looks like he has completely forgot what game plan he's supposed to be executing, and he's completely even changed his style at times, right? The first half of the fight, you see James Degale doing a lot of movement, you know, throwing a lot of combination punches, you know what I'm saying? You know, trying to be a little slick with his defense. He's slick with his movement, right? But he tries to be slick with his defense, and it works a lot of the times. And then in the second half of the fight, he's staying in the pocket. He's still throwing combinations, but they don't have any steam on him. So when guys like Badou Jack, who are coming forward, beating up your fucking body, well, he's just walking through your punches. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have the same speed on his shots. So when guys like Andre Dirrell, who have speed and can maintain that speed over the course of a 12 round bout, well, then now he's beating you to the punch, right? And he's just a completely different fighter. And I think I've attributed that to he has a lack of stamina. Not only is he not a smart fighter, whereas meaning he doesn't have the mental fortitude to continue doing what has been working for him, right? He lets other things affect his mental capabilities in the ring, like stamina, maybe getting cut, you know what I'm saying? Maybe getting his eye a little swole. Little things like that will deter James Degale from continuing to do what is working for him in the ring. You know what I'm saying? But I think the major culprit is stamina. I think he's had stamina issues his entire career. I mean, you can go all the way back down to fucking George Groves when he lost to him in 2011, right? That was attributed to stamina in the second half of the fight, and George Groves being able to continue to pour on the pressure. And at that time, George Groves wasn't the same fighter he is today. That time, George Groves used his jab much more and much better than he does today. He was a little bit more slick, had some outside movement, you know, fought from the outside as well. He doesn't do that much today. He's more of an inside type of guy, or at least at mid-range distance. He uses the jab, but not as effectively as he did before, and I think Carl Froch took a lot out of him. But anyway, George Groves was still able to do the things that he was, you know, the game plan that they worked on when watching James Degale. He was able to still execute that while James Degale was regressing literally in the ring, right? So that's why he lost that fight, right? So it's always been known that James Degale had the phrase, "It's only a matter of time," appended to his name, right? When you say James Degale, immediately you think, oh, it's only a matter of time, if you really know boxing, right? But besides what we see in the ring, and let me just say this before I get to my next points, I'm glad Caleb Truex won. Not because, like I said, I like James Degale. I was rooting for James Degale. But I'm glad Caleb Truex won because he deserved to win. You know what I'm saying? There was a bit of controversy because I think they read out a draw of a scorecard, right? Kind of the same thing that was going to happen with Badou Jack James Degale. Now, in that fight, I really did think it was a draw. It was like the best draw I've ever seen. You know what I'm saying? James Degale dominated the first 6 rounds and dropped Badou Jack within the first 6 rounds. Badou Jack dominated the second 6 rounds and dropped James Degale in the second 6 rounds. It was literally the closest fight to a draw I've ever seen in my life. You know what I'm saying? So that fight was exactly a draw. They had that right. But when they read one of the scorecards in this fight as a draw, I thought they were going to rob Caleb Truex, right? And this was a guy who was dominating the fight literally from like round 3 or 4, in my opinion. I mean, he was applying the pressure to James Degale. He didn't allow James Degale to get off. He was beating up his body. And that was like the icing on the cake, you know, for a motherfucker that has stamina issues in the second half of a fight to begin with, right? So in the second half of a fight, it just looked really bad. He was just getting caught with everything, which is exactly what usually happens to James Degale in the second half of fights. But it was just more apparent. Whereas the other fighters that he fought in the past, they didn't take over the first half. They took over the second half. Caleb Truax took over the first and the second half, and that's why he won, right? So when they read, you know, the majority decision was in favor of Caleb Truax, I was happy. I was glad they didn't rob the guy. He did everything he should have done to win, and they gave it to the correct person, right? But on to my next point. Besides what I saw in the ring from James Degale, he really started to decline in the second half. I mean, he started to decline his last 4 fights, excuse me, right? And a lot of that, in my opinion, is attributed to he wasn't fighting as frequently as he was, you know, back when you go all the way back to 2011, right? In 2012, he fought 3 times. 2013, he fought 3 times. 2014, he fought 3 times, right? But then you get to 2015, he fought twice. That was when he fought Andre Dirrell and Lucian Bute, right? Then you get to 2016, he fought once. That's when he fought Porky Medina, right? Now those 3 fights right there, Porky Medina, Lucian Bute, and Andre Dirrell, those fights could have gone either fucking way. All 3 of those fights. Now, I think Lucian Bute was probably the one fight that a lot of people felt James Degale actually won. But you can see that, again, in the second half of the fight, Lucian Bute was able to turn it up, right? And he was taking rounds because James Degale did not have the mental fortitude to not allow his stamina issues and other issues in the ring keep him from doing what he was doing in the first half of the fight. So Lucian Bute was still in rounds. Porky Medina, a lot of people thought he lost that fight, right? And then, of course, Andre Dirrell, that fight could have gone either way. The only problem with that fight is that I think Andre Dirrell was dropped twice early in the fight, and that's what netted James Degale the win. If he wouldn't have dropped Andre Dirrell in the first half of the fight, Andre Dirrell would have been champion. He would have been IBF champion probably, right? So he got lucky that he dropped that cat. So, and then that goes to 2017, where he fought twice this year. He fought one more time than he did in 2016. But from the Porky Medina fight to when he fought Badu Jack, he was on a 9-month layoff, right? And like I just said, he didn't look good against Porky Medina. And then he fought one of the best fighters at 168 in his next fight on a 9-month layoff. No wonder that fight was a draw. And no wonder why a lot of cats thought Badu Jack won the fight. No wonder why he didn't look good in the second half of the fight, right? He added to his issues. And then from Badu Jack to present day, losing to Caleb Truax, or present times anyway, right? That was an 11-month layoff. Now, he had an injury. I think he had an injury to his shoulder. But, dog, this is why Caleb Truax is a journeyman. Because he picked Caleb Truax as his comeback fight after having an 11-month layoff due to shoulder surgery. That's why he picked Caleb Truax, man. You know what I'm saying? So I can't really say, man, you need to pick a different opponent. I mean, hey, maybe he should have really looked at Caleb Truax, dog, and said, man, that's not the cat for me. I don't have the stamina to be able to keep a nigga like that off me for 12 rounds. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he should have looked at that. Maybe he should have really fought some of the bottom of the barrel motherfuckers, right? But then again, the IBF will put the pressure on you. They'll be like, hey, you're going to need to defend that title, dog, or we're going to strip you. Daryl Peoples is known for putting the pressure on niggas. Daryl Peoples is known for upholding the mandatories, right? So if you don't fight your mandatories, you're going to get your ass stripped. Daryl Peoples don't play that shit, man. So maybe they put the pressure on him. Maybe he couldn't take a Rod Selka type of fighter. He had to fight his mandatory. Now, I don't know the rankings. I don't know if Caleb Truax was a mandatory or not. But the point is, the IBF ranked him high enough in order for them to sanction his bout as a title fight, right? So he must have been ranked high enough. So they were like, you're gonna have to fight this cat. This is the cat that will let you fight, that is within the range of rankings in which we allow a fight to get sanctioned for a title bout, right? Maybe that's what happened. Maybe the other guys that were ranked higher than him, if there were anybody higher than him, or the guys below him, maybe they were killers. Maybe there was, he looked at them and was like, maybe not them guys. Let me get the wackest nigga in the pack. Or maybe he didn't do that. Maybe he actually thought Caleb Truax was the fighter that he was in that ring last Saturday, and he picked him just to test his mettle. Now, if that's the case, my thing is, for your comeback fight, knowing the flaws that you have in the ring, right? Should have picked somebody a little bit worse than Caleb Truax. You know what I'm saying? So he's been hitting that retirement a little bit. Former promoter Eddie Hearn believes that he's going to retire, but he's been given an immediate rematch. He's been given an opportunity to get his belt back, right? And this fight kind of reminds me of Kell Brook and Carson Jones. Now, of course, Kell Brook didn't lose to Carson Jones, right? I think the first fight was a majority decision, and then the second fight was a knockout win for Kell Brook, but it was a premature knockout. You know what I'm saying? The referee could have let the fight go, but he called it prematurely, right? But the majority decision win against Carson Jones, that fight could have gone either way. A lot of people thought Carson Jones won that fight, right? And it reminds me of that because it's a testament to what I talked about in my video that I did about Jerwin Ancajas and how he beat Jamie Conlan, right? It's a testament that UK fighters are second tier type fighters, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, in their careers, not all of them, but a lot of them, you can see on their resumes that they struggled against a C or B level American fighter. You know what I'm saying? They have at least almost all of them motherfuckers will have a guy on their resume that is a C level fighter in America, or a B level, B minus at best in America, and they struggled or lost to this guy. It's a testament of that, man. Now, of course, James Degale, you know what I'm saying, he came over, he beat Andre Durrell, who was one of our B-level fighters. You know, I'm not knocking that. He had a draw with Badu Jack, who in my opinion is another one of our B-level fighters. I don't rate Badu Jack an A-level fighter. He's not elite to me. There's a lot of flaws that he has. You know, I just don't think he's one of the elite fighters in the sport. I'll break him down in another video later. But he had a draw with him. Some thought he won. The majority thought he lost, right? But what I'm saying is that their training methods and how they're brought up within their circuit over in the UK, it doesn't equip them well enough to be able to contend against some of our best fighters in America. And that's why their circuit is a second tier circuit. That's why niggas can just go over there and run through them cats and come back. You know what I'm saying? That's why it happens like that. That's why you just saw Caleb Truax do that, man. And I'm not gonna give no excuses, his shoulder, and none of that, because he had an opportunity to pick who he was gonna fight next. You know what I'm saying? Caleb Truax was picked, man. You don't push Caleb Truax on anybody. You know what I'm saying? He was picked. They picked him because they needed a comeback fight that was within the ranking range in which the IBF would have sanctioned it as a title bout. So they picked him. And he struggled and lost against a C-level journeyman. Now, do I think he can win the rematch? I do. Because, I mean, he's still a much better fighter than Caleb Truax. He's much more athletic. You know what I'm saying? This was a dream come true for Caleb. And he got James Degale at the right time. So I think if James Degale can do more in his training, right, he's going to have to focus on the problems that he's been having for a very long time. He's 31 years old. He's at that peak right now, and he's starting to fall down the mountain, right? But he still has a little bit of time where he can kind of work on some of the flaws, specifically his stamina issues. He can still work on that shit. and he still has time to be able to get better at that, right? If he can work on some of those intangibles, I think he can come back and beat Caleb Truex rather easily, right? But only time will tell, man. It is what it is. If he's thinking retirement, and then he's like, all right, fuck it, last minute, I'll uphold the rematch clause. Let me fight him. And, you know, he's still got retirement on his fucking mind and shit while he's in training camp, he's gonna lose again. If he's not working on the problems that he's been having, you know, the last 4 fights before this fight, he's gonna lose again. And Caleb Truex will not only be a champion, but he will be a champion that has defended his belt. Yo, I'm laughing, man, but real talk, man. You know, shout out to Caleb Truex, man. I'm glad he got that win. I said in the post, man, this year is the attack of the C-level fighters, man. You got motherfucking Saddam Ali that beat Miguel Cotto. Now he's a fucking champion at 154. That nigga is steak at 154. Barbecue chicken, nigga. That nigga is a fucking big ass shrimp skewer at 154. Niggas is licking they chops, dog. Then you got Caleb Truex at 168, man. That nigga is steak at 168. Boy, David Benavidez and Gilberto Ramirez licking they motherfucking chops. You know what I'm saying? Hoping James Degale don't fight him so they could get that strap up off that nigga waist. Right? Man, attack of the C-level fighters, man. Shit is crazy. Can James Degale come back? Only time will tell. YouTube, do what you do in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this video. Do you think James Degale has an opportunity to come back and beat Caleb Truex in a rematch? And do you agree with the assessment that I've made on James Degale and why he can't ever be considered an elite fighter? This is real talk for real fans. 1.